Hallo und herzlich willkommen zu einer neuen Folge von Let's Play Skyrim Legendary Edition.
If you've come to file another complaint, I won't deign to hear it. If my presence is that much of an issue, tell it to the steward. Everyone whines and moans about how loosely I flap my tongue, as if Thane Erikur's eccentric love life were not a matter of public knowledge. And for the last time, I am not a Thalmor agent here to destabilize the court. You're thinking of my terribly unfashionable twin sister, Mithril. My name, on the other hand, is Nithriel, and I am both an attendant of the court and someone worthy of your confidence.
Oh mein Gott. Dein Name ist genauso hässlich wie du. Okay. I'm curious what's so eccentric about Erikur's love life.
Well, let's just say Thane Erikur prefers to do his shopping in the dungeon rather than the marketplace. On some days, he'll even emerge with a sack that rattles so violently it betrays its contents as he walks. Although I think, and you didn't hear this from me, that Erikur isn't the one doling out the punishment. He strikes me as someone who likes to be bent over a chair with a gag in his mouth. His sister, on the other hand, is another story.
Ich nenne das BDSM. I imagine Gisli would enjoy the sight of her brother bound and gagged. Not every man can be a hulking warrior. Some prefer to be submissive.
Oh, I don't know. But I suppose we all have our own preferences. I'm more curious about yours. Does the adventurer fancy a demure, submissive female?
I prefer other males myself. Reden wir jetzt über Sex? All lovers have their quirks. Mine happen to involve goats and Daedra. I prefer to be alone. I tell you, but it would be like telling all of Nirn. Enjoy someone with a sense of humor. Yes, I prefer a mate who is strong and valorous. I want someone to come home to.
As long as you bother to come home. Otherwise, you may find your new home costs 10 gold per night. Although the noise is free.
Okay. Would you describe yourself as gossip?
I'm not a gossiper, just gregarious. I don't embellish. It's just the facts don't convey the spirit of what really happens. I'm not high maintenance, just high-minded. When I petition for funding for a party or festival, or new robes for the Thanes, I do so with purpose. Nobles cannot simply skulk around like common thieves. We must present ourselves in a fashion befitting our rank.
Kannst du eine neue Stimme kaufen? I have no clue as why people think you gossip. Everything you say is a fact. Gossip is gossip. Your euphemism is too little to change that. Stimmt schon eigentlich, ne? Good, I've been dying to tell someone my darkest secret. Ach, machen wir uns einfach mal lustig.
Oh, do tell. You can always confide in me.
Natürlich. I eat human flesh. Nein. Before I came to Skyrim, I abandoned my own child and left it for dead. Was? All lovers have their quirks. Mine happen to involve I'm a compulsive order. I don't really have a secret. I get nervous around other voices. Then you'll be like telling all of Tamil. Ich bin Menschenfresser. Ich habe mein Kind zurückgelassen und es dem Tod überlassen. Ich mag Ziegen und Daedras. Ich bin ein Messi. Ich habe kein Geheimnis. Ich bin Rassist. Das ist doch ein Scherz, oder? Okay, ich bin Messi.
Oh, then you're in luck. I heard there's a Dunmer in Whiterun who will take all your junk off your hands for a nominal fee.
Das ist doch schön. Someone say a little gossip never hurt nobody. A little butter never hurt nobody. Geht doch so,
That
ne?
still implies that gossip itself is a negative. akin to a paper cut or a particularly vexing housefly. However, I believe it ties the community together. The more we know about each other, the more intimate our relationships. Gossip is inclusive. It allows outsiders such as yourself to easily join the conversation. Spend an hour with me and you'll know everything about everyone and truly feel like one of the locals.
Man sollte aber trotzdem noch ein bisschen Geheimnisse bewahren. Außerdem habe ich das Gefühl, du bist eine Art Nutte. But you embellish the truth and spit lies. It seems rather exclusive. I've been with you 3 of you minutes and I already need a bath. You convinced me you're doing this city a service. Carry on.
Then allow me to provide you with an extra token, free of charge.
Aha.
I have it on good authority that Eriku's wizard, Meleran, has some rather disturbing habits. One of which is standing over his master's bed while he sleeps. I'm not at liberty to say from whom I received this information, but you can take a guess.
Oh Mann. You must have been quite busy during the High King's death.
Indeed. They asked me what I saw, and I told them what I heard. Ulfric Stormcloak shouting King Torrik to pieces. And I do mean that literally. From what I understand, there were chunks of the High King all over the walls of the throne. General Tullius, meanwhile, was screaming at Aldis for letting Ulfric escape. Naturally, Aldis made Rogvir a scapegoat for his own ineptitude. Which is laughable. Rogvir couldn't even find his own bottom, let alone an escape route past the castle guard.
Teilweise echt schwieriges Englisch. Aber interessante Geschichte, weil die kennen wir ja schon mit Ulfric schreit Rogvir zu Tode. Why? How did Ulfric really escape? Of course it's lost, but the truth is probably something about ridiculous.
According to my sources, the only person to leave the castle was an Argonian male who took the carriage by the stables later that night. Alone, this would mean little, but consider this. When Ulfric shouted Torrik to death, some claim his skin burst open to reveal a pattern of scales. Not the scales of an Argonian, but that of a dragon.
Das ist genauso beunruhigend. What a ridiculous tale. Anyone could sneak past this pathetic excuse of God. Ulfric didn't literally shout Torrik to pieces. Ulfric is a real dragon. Nein, ich hasse Ulfric.
Didn't he? If my voice paralyzes you,
Das tut
and
sie.
I use that
Sie paralyzed me.
opportunity to cut you into bites of flesh, is that not the same thing? Besides, if the townsfolk aren't capable of deciphering a simple metaphor, then that is no one's fault but their own.
Aber wenn's... Das ist so eine philosophische Frage. Wenn's die Schuld von niemandem ist, aber deine eigene, ist es dann trotzdem niemandens Schuld? Schreibt's in die Kommentare. Und, ja, wie hat seine Frau darauf reagiert? Eigentlich wissen wir es, aber wir fragen trotzdem. Es ist ein Rollenspiel.
Well, it was rather tragic what Ulfric did to Torrik, but not nearly as tragic as the prehistoric cave garments with which he dresses his generals. The uniforms of his lower-ranked soldiers are bad enough, given their redundancy. But I mean really, a bear's head? I know third-era fashion is all the rage these days, but I think you have to go back a couple of millennia to find a time when animal heads were stylish. If Elisif mourned anything, it was the death of good taste under Stormcloak rule.
Ach was, zum Bärenkopf, den trage ich privat auch, immer wenn ich aufnehme. Of course, nothing is as tragic as poorly dressed nobles. You think Elisif cared more about clothes than Torrik? Dein Ernst?
But I suspect her husband was important too. Well, I can't say all this melancholy has been good for her complexion, but she's still quite fetching. You may not be aware of this, but it requires a great deal of work to live up to the moniker Elisif the Fair. The last thing a lady wants is to have that name said in jest.
Geh mal zu Dr. Flint. Ne, Flinch. Flint ist Borderlands 2. What exactly are your responsibilities?
As a court attendant, I mostly deal with acquiring clothes, silverware, and other accessories from merchants both local and overseas. The Blue Palace cannot have its residents dressed like common rubes. And by rubes, I mean the lesser nobles that inhabit the other holes. Unfortunately, much of the clothing I had recently shipped in by the East Empire Company was deemed too impractical given Skyrim's frigid weather.
Also so eine Art kleiner Schiffsjunge für Kleidung. What a shame. What sort of garment? Wie sind man das?
Nothing like these peasant bodices the Nords wear. They were garments truly fit for the divine race. You should have seen the quality of lace I had brought in from the Somerset Isle. Silks and linens embroidered with silver and gold. It's rather difficult to feel like oneself, let alone a divine wearing these thick coats and furs. I suppose I will have to make my face all the more stunning to compensate.
Das Problem ist, ich bin relativ schwer darin, genau, ich bin relativ schlecht darin, mir so Kleidung bildlich vorzustellen. Given your reputation, why would people tell you anything?
For one, I'm an excellent listener.
Als Frau ist das besonders.
People are willing to divulge things to me without even taking into account whether I can provide sage advice. Second, I'm delightful to speak with. Not only do I have interesting rumors to share, but I can relate them in ways that spark your imagination.
Das überzeugt mich noch nicht. How so? Perhaps you can give me an example. Not that I want to hear gossip or anything.
For instance, if I were to tell you Elisif trusts Folk Firebeard with everything, you would likely nod your head and praise the steward. Then we'd begin to dwell on the awkward silence that followed and proceed to start hating each other and ourselves for not being more interesting. Now, if I were to tell you that Jarl Elisif trusts Folk Firebeard with everything, and perhaps curl my lips into a smile, I imagine you would have little difficulty formulating a reply.
Na, ich weiß nicht. Die sagte, die ist kein Talmor-Spion. Also irgendwie habe ich das Gefühl, es ist doch so. I'm always afraid to ask. Anything. Ja, da hätte ich jetzt auch echt Angst vor.
Aya never used to cover her hair. Thank Debella she does now. Her locks and her makeup were telling two different stories, and both of them awful.
Hey, du bist die Beste. Ich muss doch mal fragen.
Daria has put on quite a bit of weight in the past month.
Oh Gott.
It's no wonder she's so bitter, especially when Tarie looks so fabulous.
Weißt du, was die ist? Die ist die Synchronsprecherin von der Bunte. Oh, also die Tina Turner, ne? Die hat 20 Kilo zugenommen. Das ist aber mal ganz besonders. Und der George Clooney, ne? Der ist 500 Gramm schwerer geworden. Oh, das ist ja ganz schlimm. Oh mein Gott. Ach, Gottes Willen, die ist echt die Bunte.
Oktiev-san saw the face of one of the 8 at the skeever again. Today it was the face of Julianos in his suit. Yesterday it was Dubella's figure on a towel stain. The day before that he saw Stendar's visage on a piece of mouldy bread. Roland refuses to dignify Oktiev's claims with a response, as he believes they're part of a scheme to pay off his gambling debts. But Silana is such a trusting young woman. She doesn't see that her pity only serves to reinforce his behavior. One of these days, Oktiev is going to ask Silana to inspect the stain of Akatosh on his undergarments. And maybe then she'll draw a line.
Oh, meine Güte. Und es gibt weiter.
Atta is a menacing one, isn't he? I suppose it's part of the job description. Men like that are typically kittens behind closed doors. Now Yorn is a different story altogether. He reminds me of the sort of man whose wife disappears mysteriously and all his neighbors are just shocked that he would be a suspect.
Das ist auch so eine, würde die in einem Wohnkomplex wohnen. Sag ich mal mit 6 Familien. Wird sie Familie 1 sein und sich über die Balkone mit Familie 2 und 3 unterhalten. Im Vorgarten wird sie mit Familie 4 über 2 und 3 lästern. Und wenn sie im Garten ist, wird sie mit Familie 5 über Familie 3 lästern. Und das dann Familie 6 erzählen. So eine ist das. Und zu Hause, ich meine auf der Arbeit, redet sie dann darüber, wie beschissen denn die Nachbarn 2 bis 6 sind. Also ehrlich, so eine ist das wirklich.
Ever notice how pale the court mage is? I know Sybil never leaves the palace during the day, but that in itself is quite strange. And it gets stranger. She never eats. And some of the servants have reported odd noises emanating from her quarters in the dead of night. Given her penchant for hunting vampires, some of the servants think we may be dealing with a werewolf. Not that I believe anything of the sort.
Das wundert mich jetzt, aber ich dachte, die hätte so verrückte Dinge geklaut. Nee, also Werwölfe gibt's nicht. Ich glaube da so wenig dran, dass ich selbst eine sein könnte.
According to Ildi, her and the Skiva Bard have a bit of a rivalry going on. Although a rivalry typically requires 2 willing combatants. I'm afraid the Breton doesn't even know Ildi exists. Who would? The way she refuses to socialize with anyone.
Gottes Willen, die weiß echt über alles Bescheid. Das wird die in einem kleinen Dorf wohnen, wird sie 2 Tage vorher sehen, wenn der Nachbar zu Besuch kommt.
You ever notice that Katla and Greta wear the exact same clothes, and the exact same hat, and the exact same face? And you never see them in the same room together. All I'm saying is, their husbands need to have a talk.
Ja, du auch. Mit dem Psychiater.
Goodbye.
Ja, bye. Bitte. Tschüss. Oh mein Gottes Willen. Kann ich hier mit Elisabeth reden? Das ist falsches Zimmer natürlich. Ach da. Habe ich nicht schon mal mit Elisabeth geredet?
Ich habe eine persönliche Angelegenheit, bei der ich auf eure Hilfe hoffe.
Die ist einfach aus dem Bett gekommen. Wie kann ich euch dienen? Jarl, Elisabeth, die Liebreizende. Die schönste aller Jarl.
Falk sagte mir, was ihr in der Wolfsschädelhöhle für uns getan habt. Er sagt, wir könnten euch vertrauen. Ihr wisst vielleicht, dass die Verehrung von Talos im Kaiserreich geächtet ist. Als wir meinen Mann bestattet haben, haben wir allen Göttern Opfer gebracht, außer Talos. Ich möchte, dass ihr etwas aus seinem Besitz an einem Schrein von Talos niederlegt. Ein Kriegshorn, das er von seinem Vater geerbt hat.
Es wäre mir eine Ehre, zu helfen. Betet ihr zu Talos?
Nein, aber Torik, mein Mann, würde sich eine ordentliche Bestattung wünschen. Und das ist die Art und Weise, wie die Norden-Himmelsrand bestattet werden.
Ach so, es wäre mir eine Ehre.
Danke. Das würde mir viel bedeuten.
Toriks Kriegshorn für Elisabeth, die Liebreizende, zum Schrein von Talon.
Es ist ein schöner Tag, wenn ihr in der Nähe seid.
Genau so. Und tschüss. Und die Türen schließen sich für diese Folge. Und damit machen wir in der nächsten Folge weiter.